What do you think when you see the circles floating silently in the ocean? A structure? A military device? Or just a strange object from the ocean? 2 million fish, from the world's 5 most valuable species, are being farmed in the middle of the ocean. Not as an experiment, but to fuel a global industry worth billions of dollars a year. From salmon monitored by robots in Northern Europe, to bluefin tuna fattened like Kobe beef, to lobsters farmed as treasures in Southeast Asia. Oysters, creatures that don't need to be fed but clean the ocean every day. And finally, sturgeon, the ancestor of the black eggs that are more expensive than gold. Have you ever wondered, why are these cages appearing more and more all over the world? Go discover how raising 2 million fish in floating cages feeds a $1 billion global industry. $2 million fish, thousands of floating cages in the middle of the ocean. Seemingly small dots in the ocean, but in fact, they are links in an industry that feeds the whole world. The most prominent fish in this network is salmon, not only a culinary symbol of many countries, but also an economic machine worth billions of dollars. Among them, Atlantic salmon is considered to represent a revolution in aquaculture in the open sea, opening a new era for the modern aquaculture industry. Each cage can hold up to 150,000 fish, closely monitored by a 360-degree camera system, underwater sensors that continuously measure temperature, flow rate, and oxygen concentration. All data is recorded and processed like a smart factory, except that this factory is floating in the middle of the ocean. Today, salmon farming is no longer a story of individual fishermen, but a high-tech achievement where biology, engineering, and data are closely combined. Thanks to that, farmers can control quality, limit diseases, ensure rapid growth, and especially accurately forecast output half a year in advance. The world currently consumes more than 2.7 million tons of salmon each year. Norway alone, the salmon capital of the world, exports more than 1.3 million tons of salmon, earning nearly $12 billion, making this fish one of the strong pillars of the Nordic economy. From delicate sashimi plates in Japan to convenient fish burgers in America, salmon has infiltrated every corner of modern culinary culture. Not only because of its delicious taste and rich nutrition, but also because of its stability and ease of control. It is truly a product of industrialized agriculture underwater. Salmon, a seemingly simple fish, is setting the gold standard for global aquaculture. A living testament to the future of marine agriculture, smart, sustainable, and technologically connected at an unprecedented level. But what if we tried farming a completely different species? One that doesn't stay still like salmon, but swims its entire life. One that was once the muscle machine of the ocean and could only be hunted, not farmed. Faster than most fish, Tuna are icons of the ocean's wilds, relentless, long-distance runners who can swim thousands of miles from continent to continent. From Spain and Malta to Japan and Mexico, a completely different method of raising tuna has emerged. One that doesn't start from eggs, nor does it breed in tanks. Instead, young tuna are caught in the wild, released into giant floating cages in the ocean, and then fattened up with live fish for months. Each cage is about 164 to 262 feet in diameter, about 82 feet deep, like an underwater stadium, and holds between 100 and 280 people. 300 bluefin tuna, each weighing about 176 to 551 pounds. Once they reach their ideal size, the ocean warriors are harvested, frozen, and flown to Tokyo, where the value of a single fish can range from $50,000 to over $300,000, with individual fish selling for up to $1.8 million at world-famous auctions. But behind this super profitable model are unanswered questions. Tuna cannot yet reproduce artificially in a stable manner. The fish are still wild caught for their breeding stock, and the feed conversion ratio, FCR, is extremely high. It takes 22 to 33 pounds of bait fish to produce just 2.2 pounds of tuna. Despite the controversy, tuna farming is opening up a lucrative market worth hundreds of millions of dollars a year, and spurring research into artificial reproduction, aiming for a more sustainable future for the ocean's legendary fish. If tuna is the warrior of the sea, the next creature has a completely different appearance. Quiet, small, but of great value. A crustacean that is raised like a treasure in small cages right next to the shore. Lobster. With only rustic bamboo rafts and simple nets, coastal people in Southeast Asia are conquering one of the most precious crustaceans on the planet. In Vietnam, Indonesia, the Philippines, and even the northern coast of Australia, this species of shrimp is being farmed in a traditional but extremely meticulous way. Small cages in the middle of the ocean connected into rafts, each holding from 20 to 50 shrimp. A large raft can be up to more than 2,000 individuals. They are treated like newborns. Lobsters are susceptible to heat stress, are sensitive to currents, and are extremely vulnerable during the most important biological time of their lives, when their shells are molted. If the environment becomes polluted or the temperature suddenly changes, the entire cage can be wiped out in a matter of days. But if you overcome the challenge, the reward is extremely worthy. A mature lobster can sell for between $30 and $80 per kilo, with some even reaching $100. They are not only a luxury on the dinner table, but also a hope for a better life for thousands of coastal families. In Vietnam alone, the region's leading lobster production center, about 2,000 tons are harvested each year, worth more than $200 million, mainly exported to China, Hong Kong, and Japan. In Australia, rock lobster has become a strategic commodity, supplying world-class restaurants. From fragile net cages to gilded banquet tables, from a crustacean of the sea to a global luxury icon. The journey of the lobster is a story of faith, hope, and the courage to survive in the fierce ocean. So how do you raise seafood without feeding it, without risking disease, and still generating billions of dollars a year? Meet the silent creature that is both food and a living biofilter for the ocean. It's the oyster. No robots, no food, no surveillance systems. This creature feeds itself silently and cleans the sea around it at the same time. It's an oyster, a vital part of the marine ecosystem and an indispensable link in the global economy. A single adult oyster can filter up to 50.2 gallons of water per day, removing toxic algae, excess plankton, and organic waste. In addition to being a food source, oysters are also known as nature's biofilters and are being used by countries in coastal reef restoration projects. Every year, the world harvests more than 5 million tons of oysters. France accounts for about 130,000 tons, the U.S. more than 90,000 tons, and Asian countries such as Japan, Korea, and Vietnam are constantly expanding their farming scale. Oysters are raised in hanging baskets, nets, or trays in sheltered bays with stable tides and clean water. They filter the water for their own food, growing day by day without human feeding or care. The farming process creates no pollution, no waste, and leaves almost no ecological footprint. In France, the oyster industry generates more than $500 million in revenue each year. In the United States, the oyster industry is experiencing a resurgence thanks to community-based aquaculture programs. No fuss, no fanfare. The humble oyster is playing a big role in the future of our oceans. But if oysters are silent water purifiers, then the next species is a slow-living creature, but one that produces the most luxurious things from the sea. An ancient species that must be raised for decades just to get a few hundred grams of black eggs, sturgeon, and caviar. Not the fastest fish, not the most farmed. But sturgeon is a living treasure of the seafood industry because it is from this ancient fish that humans create one of the most luxurious and expensive dishes on the planet, caviar. Under the calm water, each adult sturgeon swims slowly and silently, wearing a rough silver-gray skin like prehistoric armor. To get a small spoonful of caviar, the journey can last up to 10 years. Each female sturgeon must be raised under strict conditions until she reaches reproductive age. And when that time comes, the egg retrieval process is performed in a sterile room with a technique that is almost like a sophisticated surgery, gentle, precise, and without room for error. Each shiny black egg falls onto the stainless steel tray like a black pearl. Each kilogram can cost up to $25,000, turning each cage into a living bank where hope, meticulousness, and years of waiting are kept. From Russia's Volga River to Iran's Caspian Lake, where sturgeon once lived in the wild, to China's massive farms, which now account for about 60% of the world's sturgeon production, the global caviar industry produces about 400 tons a year. But no two places are alike because sturgeon are notoriously finicky. They need clean, fresh water, calm water, stable salinity, and temperature. A shock, a small change in the environment, can also cause the fish to lose eggs, or the eggs are not of good quality. To control that, modern sturgeon farms use all the technology available: 24/7 sensor monitoring, ultrasound to track egg development, hormone testing, water disinfection. exactly like a high-end pharmaceutical line. From ancient rivers to modern farms in the heart of Asia, sturgeon and caviar are telling a new story. That today's floating cages are not just holding fish, they're feeding the future of the global luxury food industry. $2 million fish, thousands of cages, 5 key aquatic species. It all started from steel structures floating in the wind and waves. But inside is technology, life, and the solution to global food security. The future of seafood lies not at the bottom of the sea, but floating in the ocean, in cages shaped like hope. Which species are you most impressed with? Comment below and click subscribe so you don't miss out on the next magical journeys.